And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient is there. That's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time, all that he said.
I know. We don't have
so many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? That is the question I have for you.
Thank you. I'll answer that question.
Go ahead. I will help you.
After the demise of Solomon, we now have the northern and southern kingdom of Israel.
Yes.
So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites. So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites.
Well, it's depending.
So minority cannot swallow the majority. We are here. We are the majority down here. So you are minority, and we are older than you.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. It's a loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries, and
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. Think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
Assalamualaikum. In the 13th tribe, Arthur Koestler traces the origin of Eastern Europe's Jewish population that was largely decimated by the Nazi onslaught during the Second World War. Through extensive research, he discusses the history of a trading empire that was set up by a tribe known as the Khazars. The Khazar Empire was located between the expanding power blocks of Christianity and Islam, and the people were converted to Judaism by their king as a way of standing apart from both. The Khazarians and their wealth were dispersed through the countries of Eastern Europe after the collapse of the Khazar Empire. The Khazarians were not a Semitic people, that they called themselves Jews after their conversion to Judaism is as absurd as the Chinese Muslims calling themselves Arabs. Is as absurd as the Chinese Muslims calling themselves Arabs. Is as absurd as the Chinese Muslims calling themselves Arabs.
Today, it is prohibited, and you can Google this, to do a DNA test in Israel. Totally forbidden. Wrong. It's illegal. It's a crime. You'll be jailed if you do a DNA test in Israel. Why? Because they know the truth will come out. You come from Poland, you come from Ukraine, you came from Europe, you came from everywhere else. And they were the original Middle Eastern Jews who lived together with the Muslims and the Christians for centuries. For centuries. So what happened to a lot of the Jews?
So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at Ellis Island. The name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
The entire Bible is about black people. Not only was Jesus black, but every character in the Bible seems to be black too. Yeah, Zephaniah and Jeremiah and Jebediah, those all aren't white people names, okay? And Jesus wasn't some tan, partially melanated Middle Eastern person either. I'm talking straight up black dude, okay? Even in the book of Revelation, when you get the vision of Daniel, he's describing someone with feet like burnt brass and white woolly hair, and we've got the deep running water voice with the red eyes, and you guys, he's black. The Jewish people are black people, like Kanye was right.
You might run into one of these groups of the Khazarians that would kill you after learning everything they could about you. They would steal your story, then they would go to China, pretend to be you, make the deal, and then go back, and the deal never happened. You might run into one of these groups of the Khazarians that would kill you after learning everything they could about you. They would steal your story, then they would go to China, pretend to be you, make the deal, and then go back, and the deal never happened. But the fact is that the clan here was not descended from Shem through Judah. right? I mean, is not descended from that line biblically. But the fact is that the clan here was not descended from Shem through Judah, right? I mean, it's not descended from that line biblically.
I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East.
Hi, shalom, shalom from Israel. This is Ola, the daughter of Jethro. And I just heard that you black people that was stolen from Africa to America, that you don't know who you are. But you are the children of Yahweh, the children of Israel. And I'm telling you, you have to come back to your homeland, here to Zion, to Jerusalem, because us the Gentiles, we do need you. We need you to come and pray because you are our saviors. You're the one that was chosen by Yahweh to live in this land, not the Jewish people, it's you. You were stolen from Africa, they deceived you, they told you that you are slaves, but you actually the children of Israel. And it's time just to come back. Come for your people, come back for us, come back for the whole Gentiles, because only you.
Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Hope all is well with you guys. Hope and pray that you guys had a blessed Shabbat. And I know that this is not a scheduled live. Didn't put a thumbnail up until probably about an hour ago. Decided to go ahead and do a live. Again, I hope and pray that you guys had a great Shabbat. We had a great Shabbat. We did a pop-up Shabbat at another location. So we had a great Shabbat, great celebration, great time in honoring the Most High. And that's right. When I say celebration, yes, the Shabbat is celebration. Let me slap my camera over a little bit. The Shabbat means to celebrate. It's not just a day of rest, because if we just focus on the day of rest, then we would think that it's just all about laying home and just, whatever things that we want to do to focus on ourselves, whether it's washing the car or whatever the case may be, but that's, or what's the other term? Me time. No, that's not what the Shabbat is. The Shabbat also means celebrate, right? It means celebrate. And you can see the word celebrate when you go to Leviticus 23 in regards to the Shabbats, the feast days. And you'll see that word celebrate. But if you go into the Hebrew, you'll see Shabbat. All right. So the Shabbat is not just not doing anything on that day, but it's also to celebrate. Celebrate who? The Most High. All right. So again, I hope and pray that you guys had a great Shabbat. We had a great Shabbat on our end. And, we're just going to deal with a subject here tonight. Our subject that we're dealing with tonight is the name stealers, of course, the virus, right? The virus of the names I'm going to refer to in this lesson, the name stealers. So the actual topic is name stealers, invasion, not a migration, the contaminant. All right. And so that is the best, way I can describe the people, right, who had done what they have done to our community as name stealers. That is the best way to describe them. And I'm going to show you that, give you some additional information. And some of you guys that may have saw the lesson earlier, we had a great time. Camera went dead. But we got a backup copy on the main camera. We was just streaming just so you guys could still be blessed with your Shabbat. So we're going to upload the full service in a few days. And actually the service from the Shabbat, last Shabbat that, we weren't able to record. I want to get that lesson up as well, because that was a really good service. All right. A really good message. But nevertheless, again, we're going to deal with the name stealers. And, you know me, I always share sources, but I am going to start, just doing a series, maybe 15 minutes, taking some key information, is doing it in increments of blocks that I would just 15-minute blocks that I'll just upload, just so that way you guys can have some additional information, but it'll be in the form of my uploads like I have been doing. So again, really appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. And again, I know that this is a last minute lesson here, so I don't expect to have the normal turnout like we would, especially on a night like this, on a Saturday night. This is not Shabbat night. Friday at night on the according to the Gregorian calendar, that will be the beginning of the Shabbat, right? Evening, right? Yesterday, right? Or should we say Friday evening to Saturday evening, or the 7th day of the week evening, right? So this is Saturday night, but not Shabbat. All right. So, but I know I didn't get a chance to, actually I was just on the fence. Wasn't sure if I was going to do this or not, but I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a live anyway. And, those that catch it will catch it as far as the live, or catch it in the playback if they get the notifications. So I'm going to encourage everyone that's here, hit that like, subscribe to the channel. But the biggest thing, again, hit that like button, because the quicker the quicker we get to that at least 100 likes, that'll help prevent or help minimize the shadow ban that I've been dealing with when it comes to this channel here. So I've been dealing with a lot of issues with this platform for a number of years, but you guys, Yah be the glory, and you guys support, we've been able to navigate through a lot of the things that they've done to try to suppress this channel. So we have almost 300 people in the room right now. So let's go ahead and see if we get those thumbs up. Let's see if we could get 100 likes right off the bat. All right, family. So I wanted to do this lesson here, and this is basically what I taught our pop-up Shabbat. And I want you to, take notes, and this is going to give you some additional information. When I teach do certain lessons, I don't like to just put everything out there all at one time. So I'll do it in increments, little by little. If I go back and teach something, I'm going to add a little bit to it. So, so that way, I'm kind of giving it to you little by little, not you getting that initial shock by getting all this all at one time. And it's just hard to get it all into one lesson. All right. So what I want to do is I want to use this clip from an old movie. Some of you guys may remember this movie, but this scene always stood out to me. And let me go and play this clip, so that way we can kind of use this as a anchor moving forward. All right. So here we go.
Who are you?
Is that it? Is it the thing?
We mean you no harm.
Life form analysis complete. Species is destructive, invasive, noxious, harmful to the body of the whole.
What species?
Man. You are virus.
Great. Just great. It thinks we're germs.
And see this right here, that clip, this is an old movie called Virus, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. And it's a great movie. I encourage you guys, Watch that movie before The Matrix came out. Watch that movie. I don't want to give it all away, but in a nutshell, it was a intelligent life force that was able to download itself by way of the satellites. And so it began to create, if you want to call it cyborgs or, its own weaponry, so to speak, with the goal of exterminating mankind. Right. And so when you get to that scene there, they were able to communicate with it just to try to see what its motives within, as you can see, it's an old computer, right? Look like that's an old, like 386 computer to type it on. But anyway, so they actually, were able to log in because that AI, that intelligent life force, had access to everything technology wise, right? From the computers to the entire system, the satellites, it had access to everything. And it really, basically, in a nutshell, possessed everything. So they were able to communicate with it via a PC. And so what you saw was the question that was being asked because they couldn't understand what was the purpose. And so that intelligent life force, right, that was inside the computer system told them that compared man to being a virus, right? And it was a lot of it was some nuggets inside that entire movie. But that one scene is longer, but that scene really stood out. So I encourage you guys, if you haven't watched the movie, rent the movie, watch that movie. It's a great movie, and there's a lot of nuggets that you can extract out of that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, let's get into it. So the virus, name stealers, the true contaminant. And family, for those that haven't watched it, I encourage you guys, whenever you get a chance, watch the lesson that I did titled The Son of Perdition. That lesson really went in on what I'm going to cover tonight. But I'm also going to share with you a couple of additional things that was not in that lesson. But I encourage you guys, if you have a moment, go watch that video whenever you get a chance. A lot of nuggets in there and give you proper clarity of who the Son of Perdition is. All right, so let's go and get into it, family. Again, the virus, name stealers, the true contaminant. I want to start off with this word here, invasion, right? Because this word says a lot. And when we think about what Professor Mike Brown, the Ashkenazi Jewish professor, on what he stated in his this clip that I played, I'll play it one more time. It makes me think about this word invasion. Many will use the word migration, but no, when we start understanding those times, invasion. When people, when we start looking at what the word invasion means versus migration, think about when we think about the immigrants, right? What they are doing, they are seeking to go to another country for sanctuary, for protection, for a better life. They're not going to that country to overtake it. They're going there to try to improve their life, right? So that's when you start really thinking about migration or immigration, right? But when we think about invasion, it's a completely different mindset. So many times, words are used to try to minimize the severity or the agenda of different groups, people groups, or individuals. So I'm gonna play that clip one more time, and then we'll go ahead and get into the lesson. I want you to listen to this one more time so that way you can really understand the layers and layers of the deception, the delusion that we've been subjected to. Here we go.
So a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now immigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany. They looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at Ellis Island. The name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false.
All right, so we're going to kind of use that to really help set the tone for this lesson tonight. And again, really appreciate all you guys for the love and support. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start with this word invasion. Let's throw out that migration word, because when you go into other territories and you take on the identity, the literal names, and you take on the reputation behind the name, that's not a migration, that is an invasion. Okay, so let's go to the etymological dictionary definition of this word invasion. And notice what it says. So I want you guys to really use this whenever someone, especially dealing with history, want to say that their ancestors migrated to another territory. Really listen to what they're saying to make sure you can distinguish between invasion versus migration. So here it is. We have invasion. It tells us, it says, an assault, attack, act of entering a country or territory as an enemy. It goes on to say invasion, attack, assault. And then as we go further down, again, attack, invasion. But here's the kicker here. To go, come, or get into, enter violently, penetrate into as an enemy, assail, assault, make an attack on. To go, to walk, go hastily. And then it gives us a little more information here. But I'll notice how it uses this definition, even giving more clarity to it in association with diseases, viruses, right? Notice what it says here. An extended sense of disease or diseases, a harmful incursion of any kind, with reference to rights, etc. Infringement by intrusion, encroachment, by entering into or taking away what belongs to another. Right? So it's a difference of migration versus invasion. I'll say that again. There's a difference between migration versus invasion. And I'm going to show you that these name stealers, right, they didn't migrate anywhere. They invaded different territories. And actually, that's the nature of this particular people group, right? I'm not just going to deal with one particular group, but we're going to see how all of these groups link. Okay, so let's start off by dealing with the prophecy of the invasion of the name stealers. All right, this is the prophecy that John was given, right? And this is what we call the book of Revelation, right? So let's see what this prophecy says. All right, let's go to Revelation chapter 9. And the fifth angel, right? And before we get into it, let me just preface this by saying we have to stop looking at prophecy from a Eurocentric, a Greco-Roman perspective. And what I'm finding out that many in this awakening, just like in the church, they are still holding on to a Roman Greco or Greco-Roman approach to the holy text. When you viewing all the ancient texts, right, from Genesis to the book of Revelation, it's all about Israel. When you read Genesis, it gives information on how the Most High created everything from the heavens to the earth, the host, gives you information about the covenant, right? How the covenant was created from the very beginning. But then you start seeing the fall of man, starting with Adam. And you see the generations that led all the way up to Israel. How the Most High took the covenant, then create a new covenant, that covenant from Adam, and given it to Noah. He said that covenant is what? For eternity. It's a perpetual covenant. So now when we go from, and you see the word establish means to make stable. Then when you take it from Noah and you bring it all the way down to Abraham, and we know it went through Shem as well, you don't see the word create. You see the word establish. The Most High took that covenant from Noah and handed it down to Abraham. It was made stable through Abraham during that generation. And from there, the Most High, right, had Abraham to sign, right? This is where we get into the circumcision. That was the testimony, the signs, the proof, the evidence. And the Most High made a promise to Abraham that the covenant was not just for him, it was for his seeds. It's a perpetual covenant forever. So words have meaning. And I'm telling you, when you start really understanding and you go back and start researching and studying like the Middle Ages, so to speak, and you start seeing the universities, being dominated by the Christian church, the Catholic church, and we could say Judaism in this country, you'll see that all of them collectively came together, that crafty council, and came up and put their agenda together and completely hoodwinked everyone on the outside looking in, so to speak. All right. So why did I say this? All right. Just to get back to my point. When we approach the text, and again, that covenant went from Abraham, and it was a covenant not just between Abraham, but he and his seeds forever. We cannot say the Most High does not change does not change, and then say that the Most High did away with the covenant. No, it's the exact same covenant, because if we say that the Most High is given a brand new covenant, then that means that the Most High lied to Abraham. It's the same covenant. This is why you understand the word renew or make a new. And when I say make a new, it's like taking a car and restoring it and making it look what? Like new. So if the Most High in Jeremiah 31, if you guys really believe that the Most High created a new covenant, then guess what? What you're saying is the Most High reneged on his promise to Abraham. So it's the exact same covenant, family. Those 10 commandments are still there. Those commandments did not remove itself. All right. Those are the words of the covenant. It's not a blank sheet of paper. All right. Now, why did I say this? Again, when we read the scriptures, the holy text from Genesis to Revelation, this is how the Most High took that covenant and given it to Israel through the generations to be that chosen people that lighted to all the nations. How the Most High took that covenant, the rise and fall of man, the rise of a chosen people, and how he's going to restore that chosen people. And through that chosen people, he's going to what? Get man back to the original place, right? This is where we get into restore. This is where we get into resurrect or revive, starting with that prefix re, right? If you look up that prefix, right, that word forming prefix, it means it says anew, it says renew, it says revive, But then the key, it says by undoing. Okay. So with that being said, when we deal with Revelation, this is all about Israel. When we deal with the mark of the beast, right? The system of man, it's more to it than just some computer chip. Whenever I hear someone says that, hey, the mark of the beast, 666, the computer chip, that tells me that anyone that's studying prophecy are still looking at prophecy from a Greco-Roman perspective. Everything that we see is about Israel. It starts with Israel. Okay. So now, when we look at, for example, the Great Tribulation, we've been in knee deep in the Great Tribulation. When we look at the mark of man, these systems of man, you'll see that the computer chips are all part of the system of man. You have computer chips everywhere. You have it in your remote control. You have it in your credit cards. You have it in your bank cards. You have chips everywhere. So whether you have an implant or not, you still subjected to a computer chip. But the purpose of that computer chip is what? Authentication, validation. So if you have a birth certificate, if you have a social security card, if you have a driver's license, if you have a marriage license, if you own a home, you pay taxes, guess what? All of those things are still part of the system of man. Now, what I mentioned about the Great Tribulation, that we in this Great Tribulation, I start with our ancestors, right? The times of sorrow, that is during that time of sorrow, that's the sacking of Jerusalem. That already occurred. That was the end of the world for Israel during that time. When we get to the Great Tribulation, right? The Great Tribulation had already started. It focuses on Israel. And anyone that's trying to tell you we getting ready to go into a Great Tribulation, they are robbing our people of the history. They are not being genuine about history, because the Great Tribulation, the Transatlantic World War, it was a world war, not a slave trade. We've been dumbed down to say world war. Look up what a world war is, and look up so many of the information that I presented, that Pope Nicholas V, right? Or should we say Saint Nick V, he signed an edict to implement and apply the articles of war to our ancestors in West Africa. That's a fact. It's documented. And we're talking about tens and tens and tens of millions of our ancestors that was kidnapped, that was murdered, that was raped, that was enslaved, far more than any Holocaust. That's, in a nutshell, you can take the Holocaust and multiply it times easily 10 to 100. Our Holocaust, right? You're talking about anywhere from, 100 million of our ancestors easily. And this is not even counting what King Leopold, the second had done to our ancestors. Anywhere from 15 to 20 million that he murdered. So during that time, our ancestors, guess what? They weren't able to buy or sell without having, of course, they had a physical mark, but we know that Social Security is a physical mark. In other words, what is a mark? The Hebrew word is naquad. The Israeli pronunciation is nakud, and that is what? A man-made mark. So when you understand this, we have been in this this Great Tribulation for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So you can't discard or disregard 100 plus Negroes. That's not the times of sorrow, because that's too easy to prove. right? Let me do something here. So when I say that, and again, when I deal with the Great Tribulation, I'm looking at it through the lens of our people, right? And when you understand that, you will see that every historian will tell you that what happened at the transatlantic world war was never no other community, no other nation went through what our ancestors had gone through. So family, let's stop with trying to use prophecy, right, to still put indirectly, not saying many are doing it purposely, but let's stop even indirectly still pushing the agendas of the Europeans. Because when you understand prophecy, the way the Messiah laid it out in Matthew 24, it's going in sync, in order as he called it out. All right. So I just thought I'd just kind of preface that real quick, to what we getting ready to get into with this passage here, for you guys to understand. I'm not dealing with the Europeans. I'm starting in terms of with this prophecy. I am starting with the Israelites, which is you and I. All right. So this prophecy, again, start with us. All right. So let's go and get into it, family. And I know I went a little long-winded, but I just want to explain that. Again, our ancestors were branded with a physical mark, with the fleur de lis. They could not buy or sell. They were actually being sold. And for those that had the privilege to move around the plantation, they had to have what is called a ticket or receipt authorizing them to do so. So they couldn't buy or sell. And guess what? We still have a physical mark, evidence, signs, proof, evidence, right? And again, that's your number. That's your driver's license, your vehicle registration. All of those things are part of this system. All right. So I just want to just make sure we understand as we get into this prophecy here. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the pit of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of Yahweh in their foreheads. In other words, when we see seal, we're talking about proof, the evidence, right? We're not talking about a literal mark, right? We're talking about commitment here, but those that truly belong to the Most High. Proof, evidence, the Hebrew word ath, right? Which means signs, proof, evidence. It also means banner. So this is not a literal mark, right? But this is what? Again, signs, proof, evidence, the reputation. But those, it says here, but only those men which have not the seal of Yahweh in their foreheads. All right. It goes on to say, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days men shall seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Verse 7, right? And the shapes of the locusts, or should I say locusts, excuse me, were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were as it were like, crowned like gold. And their faces were as the face of men. And they had hair as the teeth, they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of the lions, right? I want to make it clear here, family, especially, actually, let me read verse 9. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Now, I can admit, I don't have a problem with admitting that I taught this prophecy wrong. I taught this prophecy as if this prophecy was dealing with Desert Storm. You know, I was over there. You know what I mean? I was deployed over there. But I was, just like many that are end time prophecy geeks, taught that what you see here being described is the Apache. Many, like myself, you know, I was looking at this from a Eurocentric perspective. I was thinking that these were Apaches. I was basing the history, as far as world history. I was taking World War I, World War II. I was taking the European history, and I was literally taking that and superimposing this on the scriptures, which that is completely incorrect. All right. And I'll say, moderators, if there's anyone being a distraction, you know, give them a warning. If they don't take heed, just go ahead and put them out out of the chat. You know, and if there's anyone that are trolling, that are posting things that are contrary, that are posting, you know, any type of things that are contradicting what we teach on this platform, remove it. And I want to make this clear. I see a comment here saying Moses gained all his magical wisdom from Pharaoh's retainers and priests. That's an example. Moses did not operate in magic, right? He got the Pharaoh's retainers and priests did nothing. So let me put this person out. We don't want none of that stuff here inside our comment section. You know, he could go to Sinetta TV. That's the Conscious Community channels. If you want to post that stuff, go over there. But we don't do that over here. And we're not going to tolerate that over here. All right. So I just want to make sure, moderators, put them out. Don't let them post stuff here that they won't post on other channels. You know, again, here we don't teach all of that stuff. You guys have been very supportive, and I want to make sure you guys don't get distracted. All right. So let's go ahead and continue, family. All right. So I was teaching that this prophecy, right, because I wasn't teaching the world war that we've all been dumbed down to saying that it was a transatlantic slave trade. It was a world war. Far more in that world war. You could combine World War I, World War II. You could throw the Vietnam War. You could combine all of those together, and it will not come close to the numbers of what happened to our people. Many of our people are waiting for World War III. Man, World War III already happened. If you understand history and you start understanding through the lens of our people, our history is disregarded. So here, again, I was describing this as the Apache helicopter, you know, invading the Iraq invasion. But guess what, family? That's not what this is. Listen closely here. Let's go back here. In the shape or shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. Now, when you understand the imagery, right, this is not saying that they were locusts, but had the characteristics of the locusts and how they what? Invaded. This is an invasion that we see here. An invasion. So understand what locusts, you know, what they do. They eat up all the greenery in any territory that they invade. They leave that territory good for nothing. Now I'm talking about millions upon millions upon millions. Apocalyptic type invasions. So this is describing the invasion, right? It says here, like the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions, and they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. Family, this is the invasion. This is in the invasion of the colonizers. This describes men, Caucasian men, long hair like women, right? This is describing them. This is describing them. This is not dealing with Iraq. This is describing them invading. This is an invasion that is being prophesied here. All right. So I want to make sure we understand we all on the same page. This is dealing with an invasion. The key reputation of the name stealers, right? So we already dealt with invasion and we see a prophecy about these invaders. But let's deal with a key reputation of the name stealers. Remember, reputation, right? When we say Sham, it could be literal name, but it could also mean the reputation, the characteristics of the one bearing the name. Now, verse 10 says this, and they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And when you see this here, family, there's stings in their tails, right? The stings in their tails. Think about the whips. Think about the cannons. Think about seeing things that they never saw before. So you have a prophet describing things that he never saw before, but he's trying to explain it and with illustrations that he understands at that moment. So think about it. They had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And even think about cannons coming out of a ship. Think about the weaponry. And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon. Right? Abaddon. Right? When you see Abaddon, this makes me think of the Hebrew word abadah, which means cultivate. It means culture. See, abad or abadah in ancient Hebrew, that was one of the responsibilities of Adam. Adam, when you see the word till, right, and keep, but till, abad or abadah, right, when you understand that, this is where you get cultivate. This is where you get the word culture. So this is telling you that the Most High established holiness from the very beginning. Adam was given the charge, the command to continue to promote the atmosphere of growth, the atmosphere of holiness that the Most High had planted. All right. So the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. All right. So again, they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. So who is the king, the angel of the bottomless pit? Who is this person? So the king of this bottomless pit is Apollo, because it mentions that inside the scriptures. But let's break this down here. This deity, this Greek deity, this Roman deity. Let's see who Apollo is. Who is Apollo? Right? Apollo, Greek sun god, who took over the powers of his twin sister, Artemis. Now, when you understand Apollo, right, this is now you get into many of the Greek fraternities that our brothers and sisters are, are possessed by. They're possessed by these Greek lettered organizations called the Globes. Right? You see Artemis, that's for the females, some of the females fraternities, sororities. I believe Artemis, if I remember correctly. Now we get into the AKAs. All right. But nevertheless, Greek son who took over the powers of his twin sister Artemis, the moon, originally he was her child, as the son was born of the moon goddess in Egypt. He was also her totemic beast in several forms: a wolf, a mouse, or a golden maned lion. The fully anthropomorphized Apollo laid claim to the goddess's power of prophecy, poetry, music, magic, and healing, the very tools that Nebuchadnezzar used to indoctrinate the Israelites. His priesthood adopted the muses, the graces, even the great serpent who gave oracles from the earth womb, Apollo Python. And that's key. Apollo Python, that is key, known as Soul Neger. All right. So Apollo Python, make a note of this. Apollo Python, even if you have to write it down. Apollo Python. This is what Revelation chapter 9 is dealing with. All right. So no creature and no force leaves behind any more destruction than that of the ferocious locust. I want to make sure you understand that. All right. So Isaiah, right, he also prophesied about the invasion of the name stealers, right? Because we see it, Revelation is dealing with an invasion. Isaiah also prophesied about the invasion of the name stealers and a promise to redeem his people. Let's go to Isaiah 59, starting at verse 16. This is what Apostle Paul taught out of as well. And he saw that there was no man, and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. Verse 17, for he put on righteousness as a breastplate and an helmet of salvation upon his head. And he put on the garment of vengeance. That's right, the garment of vengeance for clothing. That's the Redeemer, Gaal, Avenger, right? But nevertheless, and was clad with zeal as a cloak. Verse 18, according to their deeds, accordingly, he will repay fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies. To the islands he will repay recompense. But here's the key verse here. So shall they fear the name, right, of Yahweh, name, Sham, right? Again, literal name, but also the reputation from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come in like a flood. That's an invasion. When the enemy shall come in like a flood. And you guys seen footage, news footages or documentaries on floods, right? A flood just, it takes over. It fills up a whole territory. It literally, carry away anything that's not really sealed properly. It can take away buildings, it take away ships, you name it. That's how this invasion is, coming in like a flood. But here's the kicker. Rawak Yahweh, right? This is where you see in your translation, it'll say Spirit of the Lord, but actually Rawak Yahweh shall lift up a standard against him, Nasas, against him, right? So what is the meaning of Yahweh will raise up a standard? Notice what it says here. And this is what's interesting, right? In the ancient Hebrew, when you go to this text, you'll see Nasas. But notice the Israeli language is nous. Come on, family. Words have meaning. When you start having other cultures start touching and, interpolating our words, look at what it says here, nous. Go figure. That's right. I know some of you guys are like, wait a minute. Know that you telling me that's what it means? A standard means nous? No, that's not what it means from an ancient pronunciation in the ancient Hebrew. So the word nasas, it means to fit, an example, vanish away, flee, make to flee away, put to flight, lift up a standard. Right? So you have nasas, And you also have Nasa, right? Nasa, right? Sounds similar to the word Nasas. Nasa means to prove, test, explore. This is where you get the NASA, right? That's a Hebrew word, right? But think about it, noose. Go figure. To cause to disappear. And guess what? So many of our ancestors had a noose put around them, around their neck, to make them what? Disappear. But the Most High is lifting up a standard, right? He's going to make all of our oppressors disappear. So we see an invasion, but I'm telling you, Israel, we are in this land of captivity, and the Most High know that we've gotten invaded, attacks against us. The Most High has a plan to redeem his people. And we are, I believe, when you read the scriptures and really study, I believe we're at that transition of going from the great tribulation to a time where all of Israel is going to be crying out to the Father, because that's what Christ said. When it's going to be a time where Israel's going to get to a place that they all will start crying out, and the Most High will then allow us to see the signs of Yahushai return. I want to give shout outs to my buddy here, Apostle Curtis Lewis. Family, if you haven't, subscribe to his channel. I really appreciate you, Apostle. I've been listening from the beginning. Excellent breakdown and teaching concerning the scriptures and our people. And family, this is my brother right here. He's an elder, and I really appreciate the friendship with him. So I encourage you guys, subscribe to his channel. If you're down in the Louisiana or if you're in the Houston area, he has an assembly down there, and look him up. And Apostle, feel free to post your information, your link inside the comment section. Really appreciate you, my brother, and thank you for the contribution. And family, let's show Apostle Curtis some love and support. Let's show him how much we appreciate his contribution, just the relationship, beyond the contribution, but the relationship. So I appreciate you, Apostle, and thank you. All right. So family, as we, again, when we get back to this word here, right? Noose, it was used as a weapon for our people, towards our people by these people that have invaded our territories of where we scattered to. See, this is the kicker, family. We scattered, right? And there's a judgment that's coming to these name stealers. See, Israel was in sin. See, when our ancestors fled, right? Don't listen to how these historians is teaching. They teach like, hey, you know what? Israel, during the invasion of the Romans, the siege of Israel, the siege of Jerusalem, that they fled into Africa. No, they did not flee into Africa. They fled deeper into Africa. They already started migrating to other places, but they fled deeper into Africa. Now, our ancestors, when they landed in the west coast of Africa, when they landed in further south in Africa, they began to take on the practices and culture of the people that was indigenous to that area. Our ancestors began to what? Continue to live in sin. So guess what the Most High did? He allowed those name chasers to do what? Invade, get to us, put us on those slave ships, put us on those warships. Let's stop saying the word slave ships. I'm going to stop saying slave ships. They were warships. So because of our sin, even though our ancestors were able to migrate, the wandering sheep herders, that was one of the titles of our ancestors. They went to different areas thinking that, hey, they got away from that danger. They went into other territories, and the Most High sent what? Judgment to them. But there's a judgment that's going to come on these name chasers, these name stealers, right? Because they went overboard with their judgment. And again, when you study Zechariah about the four horns, whenever the Israel got into trouble, the Most High always used another country to correct Israel. But the judgment to those countries is when they went overboard with their authority that the Most High had given them. They went overboard, right? That's why, when you read Hosea, you'll see, the northern kingdom going into a captivity is prophesied there, but you also see that they had a more severe punishment than the southern kingdom because of them going overboard. I'm not trying to go too deep with Jerusalem or whatever, but just look it up. So let's get back into it. So the key to this group of people is their reputation of a serpent. Now, this is key, family. Think about serpent. Think about serpent. Think about, divination, because when we think about this word serpent, right? When you think about Apollo, Python, that's divination, right? Serpent, but also divination. Let's prove this. Notice what you see here. Puthon, right? Notice what it means. A python. Now, when you see Delphi, right, this is dealing with what? Stomach. So the damsel, the story about the damsel, right? She was what? Manipulated. She was possessed by a python spirit. She had two men that had her bound, and they was basically pimping her gift. And she was referred to as someone that can speak about future things. But that was demonic. As you see here, diviner, but a python. So she was under a python spirit. So a python, an example, inspiration. But we see by analogy with the supposed diviner there, soothsaying. Okay. And here's some additional information on that word. You see in Greek mythology, the name of the Pythian serpent or dragon that dwelt in the region of Pytho or Pytho at the foot of Parnassus in Phocis, and was said to have guarded the oracle at Delphi and had been slain by Apollo. But then we see a spirit of divination. So who are these people operating in the spirit of Apollo Python? Divination, right? So let's go to a source here, and I'll drop this link inside the comment section. But tracing lost history from the Caucasus to Europe, right? And you see, I believe this is a German word. I'm not saying I'm 100% correct in it, but when we look at here, avar, because when you start seeing that v sound, that's from the Germanic influence. None of the ancient Hebrew, the different, what the sister language included, used a v sound. It used a w, a wa, rather. So avar home, excuse me, Dr. Kolja, Spory. So notice his account on his personal journey and how he made a note in this entire article that he wrote is about his experience as he began to travel to these different territories. Well, what territories, right? We're going to highlight it here. So his whole article here is about not just about the Jews per se, it's about the origins of the Europeans. So according to some scientists, large parts of the so-called European or Caucasian civilizations, including the Indo-European languages, originally come from the area between the Caucasus and the Volga. In other words, the Caspian and Pontic steppe. Ashkenazi Jewry, right? Notice what it says here. Ashkenazi Jewry, deriving from the ancient Khazars, can also be traced back to the same area. I embarked on an overland trip from the Caspian Sea and the Caucasus to Central Europe, following the footsteps of our ancestors. Now he's dealing with his ancestors, his ancestry. So he's making it clear he's traveled to all these different places and he made notes of what he discovered. So he says here to learn more about our history on a road trip from east to west. All right. So another thing I want to point out, right? The migration of these people is described as the characteristics of a serpent. Now let's go back to this article that he wrote. Now look at this here. See, this is described as a serpent, and it looks like a serpent, right? It looks like a serpent, right? So when we look at invasion, let's take migration out of it, because especially when you look at these times, whenever a group of people from one country went to another country, it wasn't from a migration perspective. It was from a perspective of what? Invading, to take over that land. So look at here as he highlight the patterns here. Okay. So he's just describing an invasion, how they invaded different territories. Okay. So he just gave an example here, but notice this here, right? Vel Ker Wanderung, right? So if you hear me say right? Because I know you guys see the O, right? It could be Vel Ker Wanderung, or it could be Vu Ker Wanderung, because those two dots can make it a sound like the Segal and the Nikud. This is dealing with the Israeli language, or it can make a oo sound with those two dots over this letter. So that's why, so my apologies if I'm butchering this letter, because I'm not German. So it could be Vel Kerwanderung or Vu Kerwanderung. But nevertheless, it says is usually described as a nation's migration period of Germanic peoples from east to west, pushed forward by climatic changes and or enemies from the Asian steppes, like the Huns. In another Vul or Vel Kerwanderung view, this migration is rather seen as what? Invasions of joint Turco-Gothic forces. Right? When you see Gothic, you're dealing with the Greeks, you're dealing with the Romans. But nevertheless, this is seen as invasions, not a migration. He's making it clear. It's not a migration. He's saying it's an invasion. Right? This professor, this doctor, he says in a more delicate interpretation, the invading steppe forces were manipulating with an invisible hand the sheep-like resident people or peoples into nation building. Now, notice what he break down here in parentheses, nat, right? You see the word nation, nat. And when you start going into this word here, and I'm working on updating a lesson that I did and put more information into it. When I did a lesson titled The Deception of the English Language, I did a lesson that's showing how deceptive that language is, how many strongholds that have been placed on people, how words lose their original meaning from Hebrew, and by the time it gets through this language, it's dumbed down, or it's the opposite, right? Perfect example. By the time the Germans or these people got to that word nasa or nasas, it went from nasas to being pronounced noose. All right. What group of people, when you hear that word noose, comes to mind, as far as in terms of the victim and those that are the perpetrators? So notice what it says here. The sheep-like resident peoples into nation building. And notice what it says here, nat. This is dealing with the root here, nat. Not taking that ion off. It says nat equals snake equals symbol of rebirth. Right? Nat equals snake equals symbol of rebirth. Though the words for settlements, and we see Slavic sanista or sanitsta. So I'm not going to get into all of that, but it says in places like stand states. So you start seeing the influence of them. And we had a great discussion at our Shabbat earlier, even dealing with the snake, the symbol, the original symbol of Virginia, right? But anyway, and it was chopped up into pieces. But anyway, the words for settlements and places like the stand states, Istanbul, Astana, right? And he's given some additional places, but I want to skip down here. To me, seems etymologically close related just as much as the separation lines in between. And it gives you some additional, but notice you see here, Granitsa, Ukraine, right? See Ukraine here, and Grenzy, which is German, all strangely connected through Old High German. And German still falls up under the Proto-Indo-European languages too, right? You have 4 trunks, and the Germanic trunk is one of them. English is a Germanic language, right? You have Old German, you have, I'm not getting into all of that, but you see, and if you understand the Germanic tree and understand the Germanic people, everyone that ties to them, you'll see the influence of what? Their overall Norse religion. Now you get into the Vikings, who was still all part of these people groups. What was the Vikings known to do? Invade. What was their symbol? A serpent. What is part of their religion, right? What is part of their belief system, rather, their culture? Because I want to say religion, this is their culture, right? Anyone that's practicing their culture, it's a religion to you, but it's a culture to them. So when you start understanding Midgar and you see that snake that's going around it, that's their symbol, snake. So still getting back to that Apollo, Python, that serpent, Puthon, that Pythonian, that demonic force, that demonic, divination. When we get into start thinking about divination. So all strangely connected through Old High German, right? So again, he's making it clear he's not just dealing with the Jewish community as we know that, he's dealing with all the Europeans. So that's the point I want to reiterate. Okay, so I want to say this to you, family. There's something special about you, family. There is something special about you. So when we think about this name stealers, family, we're not just dealing with one community. Truth be told, we could say all of them. All of them are connected. This is where we could go into the term crafty counsel. All right. Before we continue, let me get a shout out. I see a couple more here. Super stickers. Yaquaba, want to thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate the contributions tonight. Excuse me. Thank you for the 2 super stickers. Really appreciate you, my brother. And thank you for the love and support over the years. And family, let's give a shout out to Yaquaba, one of the moderators. Really appreciate him, and really appreciate you, my brother. And also Ama in the building. Family, let's show some love all the way from California. Really appreciate it. Let's show some love to our elder in the building. Really appreciate you, Ama, for the love and support. Thank you again. Really appreciate it. That's right. You learned this in humanities, because in humanities, that's why I learned about a lot of this. It's right in our humanities courses. And thank you for Ama for sharing that information. So family, let's show some love as well to all those that contributed tonight. But let's show some love to Ama. All right. Over here, we really honor our elders, not just from the men, but women as well, because there are women elders. That word is not just for men, it's for men and women. Right. But anyway, there's something special about you, Israel. Right. There's something special about you, Israel. There's something special about you, Judah. Right. There's something special about you guys, something special about us as a people. See, there's a reason why these name stealers continues to make an assertive effort to belittle the importance of our skin complexion and its texture. I know you guys have heard this a number of times. They'll come up with all kinds of labels like skin doctrine, to try to belittle the importance, to try to put down this beautiful melanated skin that we all are blessed with. They know, when I say these name stealers, they know how powerful that our dark melanated skin is. And even though we come in different shades, guess what? We still dark, right? I'm applying that to everyone in our community. But guess what? They had an issue. They couldn't handle that. They could not handle that, right? So they did everything to tear it down. which is interesting. They're doing everything to tear down our qualities as far as our skin complexion, how we built and everything. And you know what? What's sad is many of our brothers and sisters are buying into it. Never in a million years I would have thought that our own brothers and sisters will be doing implants. Come on, the sisters are already curvy, and now you're putting implants on something that you already blessed with. Putting lip implants, you already have naturally thick lips for the most part. But why do you need to disfigure yourself like that? Men putting implants for their chest, implants for their arms. Work out. You know what I mean? But certain things we have natural. But I'm telling you, this is all calculated. The very things that they have us forfeiting, guess what? They're embracing. This is why you have what is called Melanin Council conferences. This is why you see that those people, those that have called us, in this country less than human, they have all kinds of salons and parlors trying to darken their skin. This is why they have what is called melanin injections, right? Or injections rather, injections into their skin and causing all kinds of problems because there are side effects when they do something that comes naturally to us. And they discovered at the melanin conference. I learned about the melanin conference when I was in the military. Not going too deep in it, but guess what? They learned that melanin, because initially they thought melanin was just at the surface of our skin and did not realize. And when they began to do their further investigation, right? Guess what? They discovered that melanin is all through our bodies, all through our organs, it's all through our blood. They called that the perfect cell. So what do? They're trying to mimic. That's why when you start looking at transplants, right? The name stealers, right? They primarily get transplants from our community, right? They don't get it from within their community. So there's a reason why these name stealers continue to make an assertive effort to belittle the importance of our skin complexion and its texture, right? So these people groups are also known for their savagery, right? I'm going to break this down because one of the things that they have done very well, right? They can throw a rock at you and hide their hand. They can provoke situations but hide their hand. They're good at calling everyone else savagery, especially our community. They call us barbarians. They call us savages. But guess what? I'm going to prove to you that they are the savages. These people groups are also known for their savagery. So let's go to this here. I want to pull this article out. Some of you may remember this, but we may have some new people that are following us. So peep this out, family. Peep this out. Let's go to this article. It's titled Researchers Test 2,400-Year-Old Leather and Realize It's Made of Human Skin. And this is recent. December 23rd. This is a little more than a month ago. They discovered old leather and realized it's made of actual human skin. Well, I know some of you guys want to see where I'm going at with this. Notice this here, right? A group of horse riding warriors kept some gruesome battle trophies. And I'm going to drop the link here. Matter of fact, let me drop it in before I continue. Let me drop this link because I said I was going to drop a couple of links. So let's drop this link here. I like to give sources so that way you guys can, at your leisure, can go back and vet the sources. All right. So let me drop this source here. This is the initial source that I shared about the origins of or lost history of the Europeans, right? This is the initial one. Let me drop this in the comments section. All right. That's the initial one right here. And let me drop in the current source that I'm going over. All right. And you can vet this. You can vet the sources, vet it. Right. I don't hide behind my sources. Right. So let's go to, you put this other one in there, the one that I'm currently reviewing. All right. All right. Let's put this in there. All right, this is the other source. This is a source that I'm currently reviewing. All right. All right, let's get into it. It says a group of horse riding warriors kept some gruesome battle trophies. Notice we see a key attributes of this group of people. A group of horse riding warriors, right? They kept some gruesome battle trophies. Scythians in modern day Ukraine made leather out of human skin. That's right, the Scythians. And we're going to break down who the Scythians, who they are. Some are referred to this name as Scythians. So whether you say Scythians or Scythians, you're still correct. So in modern day Ukraine, right? Scythians, modern day where? Ukraine. In modern day Ukraine, and guess what? Ukraine don't like us. They don't like our community. They don't like dark melanated people. This is why they had to put warnings and disclaimers on the website of what's the group that they call that does the can't think of the name now, that goes out to different territories, other nations to do volunteer work. Oh, I can't think of the name. But anyway, like if you volunteer to go over to those different groups, they warn you on their website that if you're a Negro, you're going to be subjected to racial terms, words, slander. All right. They're going to say all kinds of stuff. All right. Not travel advisor. I can't remember when you go, man, I can't remember the name of what they call it, where they go doing volunteer work, community build. It's not the Red Cross. Peace Corps. That's it. Thank you. August Dreams, Peace Corps. I couldn't remember. It's the Peace Corps. And you guys can Google this. Google Peace Corps. And just type in Peace Corps, Ukraine, racism, right? And you'll see Peace Corps. They're warning any Negro that's trying to volunteer to go to Ukraine, warning them, letting them know that you're going to deal with racism over there, because many of them have never seen a Negro before. So look it up. So thank you, my sister, August Dreams, for posting it. And also Elder in the building. I got to give shout outs here, family. Let's let's show some love for our elder here, family. Let's show some love. Let's show some love right now. I'd like to acknowledge the elder that's in the elders in the building. Really appreciate you, elder, for your love and support. Really appreciate it. All right. So the Scythians in modern day Ukraine made leather out of human skin. A team of researchers has determined, likely as a Magog trophy item, the discovery affirms a claim by the ancient Greek historian Herodotus. And right, I still got to finish going through some. I'm going through some articles. I'm going through his writings because I want to further confirm this. And I'm going to do this I may just upload a video at a later time. Let's see here. Yeah, let me see something here. Let me see if I can type something in. All right. Let me see here. Yeah, I have to do some, just go to the actual, writings, because there's certain things I'm still going through his writings. So I'm gonna have to, some of the things I'm going to make a note of. But as they say here, they said that according to this article here, the discovery affirms a claim by ancient Greek historian Herodotus, who wrote extensively on the Scythian way of life. And I'm going through, that's a lot to go through. And I'm going to give you a little quick bullet out of that. So again, the Scythians, why is this important? Why is this important? And I'm going to show you here. So in their work, the researchers use paleoprotemics, it says here, to establish the source of leather found on 14 different Scythian sites in southern Ukraine. So different locations in Ukraine, they finding human skin that was leather made out of human skin. So the manifold sources, sheep, goat, cattle, horses, and yes, human skin, suggest that the equestrian steppe group or groups had a sophisticated knowledge of leather working. All right. So why is this historical barbaric fact important to know? I'm glad you guys asked why this is important to know. This is Nat Kern article stating how Nat Turner's skull, right? Titled Nat Turner's Skull and My Student's Purse of Skin, right? So this article is addressing how Nat Turner, his skull, right, was being passed around for centuries. I mean, since his death, right? In the 19th century, newspapers occasionally advertised that a decapitated head had been discovered. And this is dealing with Nat Turner, right? Turner's skull was not the only one in circulation. 19th century newspaper occasionally advertised that a decapitated head had been discovered. And so he was chopped up. They used his skin to make oil, leather, cannibalism. They ate some of his body. They also used part of his body to make grease for wheels. And they didn't just do this to him. They were doing this all through with a number of people within our community. They were using us, right? Our people, using our hair for pillows. George Washington used that for his teeth from Negro from our community, teeth of his slaves. You could go right down the list, and guess what? Shoes, belts, pocketbooks were made out of our skin. Made out of our skin. So why is this historical barbaric fact important to know? I gave you the answer, but I'm going to give you the article. Leather from human skin, but not just any human skin. This is an actual article right here, family. An old article, but notice what it says. I remember that 2 or 3 years ago, I incidentally referred to a prominent physician of this city wearing shoes made from the skin of Negroes. He still adhered to that custom, insisting that the tan hide of an African makes the most enduring and the most pliable leather known to man. Right? So he's making it clear that no one's skin complexion is like our skin complexion. No other people in this planet, as he's stating, skin is like our skin. That's what he's saying here, insisting that the tanned hide of an African makes the most enduring and the most pliable leather known to man. Now, this is telling you just how they see how special we are, right? And I know that this is many of you guys look at it like, man, there's nothing good out of this. The one thing that we can take out of this, that they know just how special our skin is. Not just the color of it, but the texture of it. There's something special about us, but they wanted to take what we have naturally, and they want to profane it. Profane it. And that's what they're doing. But this proves that they know how advanced we are as a people. They know this skin texture, this skin complexion. They know about that perfect cell. And they've been doing everything to try to see what they can do to keep themselves from becoming distinct. I mean, extinct. I said distinct, but extinct. Right? They fear of extinction because, you can look it up. They fear of being extinct, going into extinction. So many are doing all kinds of things to try to have children with our people. Notice you see like mixed marriages are really being endorsed in these commercials. And the mixed marriage that you're going to see, primarily you're going to see is going to be either a Caucasian man with a sister or a Caucasian woman with a brother. That's what you primarily see. Have you guys noticed more and more the push for marriage of us marrying the very people that have suppressed us? Have you guys noticed that? If you notice that, type 1. The very people that have oppressed us, the very people that have made us prisoners of war, the sons and daughters of prisoners of war, that is happening right now. Now they're trying to persuade our people to what? Mix with their community. So that way their seeds is in their minds, their seeds will not, or their people as a whole would not disappear. Because there are some writings I was seeing that they say by the time there was estimated 2040, they were saying that the Caucasians around the world, they'd be considered a minority. Okay, but nevertheless, it says here, he still adhered to the custom, insisting that the tanned hide of an African makes the most enduring and the most pliable leather known to man. Only last week, I met him upon the street with a brand new pair of shoes. I looked at his footwear as I always do. His pedal coverings have an irresistible fascination for me. And he said with a smile, "Is the downtrodden African still beneath your feet?" Notice this, family. So notice the words that they say here. Downtrodden African still beneath your feet. Do you know that's how we're treated? See, they don't have a problem with worshiping a Caucasian Christ. They don't have a problem with worshiping a Turkish Christ. That's why they use the term olive. They don't have a problem with that. But let it be a Negro. Let it be a Negro. Let it be a Negro. Have you guys been in that position or managing people that can hear or receive instructions and corrections from anyone but a Negro? But you see this, there's an agenda behind this. Okay. So is the trodden down African still beneath your feet? And family, I even had someone from the Jewish community as we know them years ago when I proved to them that the Israelites are dark melanated people. Even the Messiah is dark melanated people. And this person was a Messianic Jew and literally said, good thing you brought that to my attention. I'm glad you proved that, because now I can now say that Christ is not better than me. See, he looked at it as, hey, being that Christ is a dark melanated Negro, that he's not better than him. That's a fact, family. That is a fact. That's how many of people from other communities think. They would rather worship a green olive, because that's when they say olive skin, they dealing with the green. They rather worship a Martian than a Negro Messiah. They would rather worship a Arab, a Turk, before they worship a Negro Messiah. That is a fact. All right. So it goes on to say, he answered, "I suppose you mean to inquire if I still wear shoes made of the skin of a Negro. I certainly do. And I don't propose changing in that respect until I find a leather, in other words, that is more pliable. That's better." So why is this historical barbaric fact important to know? Well, going back to this article, as he gave another account here, it says here, the young doctor who presented them to her recently returned from an extended foreign tour, and he told her that he had purchased them from a Turk in Alexandria, right? A Turk. So they're purchasing Negro leather from Negroes from what? Turkish people in Alexandria. And that he did not know what sort of leather they were made of, but he supposed it was the skin of some wild animals, right? But guess what? As a matter of fact, the skin, right, came from a Negro cadaver. Guess what? They would take, family, this is why you better be careful. Be careful. Make sure you don't sign off on allowing your organs to be donated once you transition. If the Most High does not come back before then, keep your organs and everything intact with your body. But notice here, from a Negro cadaver. So here it is. They were taking the skin off of dead Negroes and making leather. And this is dealing with, as you see here, from a Turk in Alexandria. And it says he supposed it was a skin from the skin of some wild animal. But guess what? As a matter of fact, the skin came from a Negro cadaver, which was once put on a Jefferson College dissecting table. And the leather was prepared and wamseled forth. The rosettes on the slippers were definitely fashioned from the Negroes' kinky hair. So even on slippers, guess what? Said that they had our hair on the slippers. Come on, family. They made pillows out of our hair. So who are these people? Why is it important to know? Let me prove who these barbaric people are. That's what they've done. Remember, we already highlighted that the Scythians are known. They're known for savagery. Let's bring this home. All right. Let's go with Magog. Let's bring all of these people together and let's see who these name stealers really are. Right? A region of Magog, a region of Gog, the second of the sons of Japheth. And Ezekiel, it is the name of a nation, probably some Scythian or Tartar tribe descended from Japheth. All right. Then it says they are what? Described as skilled horsemen. So you saw that article that I read, and I'll go back to it real quick, about the Scythians, right? Remember what it says here. It says here, a group of horse riding warriors who kept gruesome battle trophies. All right. So I want to make sure you see that, right? These horse riding warriors. Okay. All right. Let's get back here. All right. So we see them described as skilled horsemen, but the key Magog, it says here again, it is the name of a nation, probably some Scythian or Tartar tribe descended from Japheth. It goes on to say, denotes Scythian nations, fierce and innumerable, who live beyond the Caucasus and the lake Meotis, and near the Caspian Sea, and spread out even onward to India. Making it clear, they made it all the way to India, family. All right. So Magog is the second son of Japheth. Genesis chapter 10, starting at verse 2, is what I'm going to highlight. Right. Notice what it says, the sons of Japheth. And I'm telling you, I encourage you guys, watch that lesson I did titled The Son of Perdition. And I go through all these names. So the sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus. All right. And we see here Magog. And you're going to see how all of these guys tie into the Scythians, right? Which is the son of Gomer, also synonymous to Ashkenazi. So according to the Eastern Bible Dictionary, 1894, Magog is also connected to the Scythians. All right. So who are the Scythians? So Magog is connected to the Scythians, but who are the Scythians? You guys remember this? Britannica online, Scythians, also called Scyth or Saka or Sake, member of a nomadic people originally of Iranian stock, known from as early as the 9th century BCE, who migrated west from Central Asia to southern Russia and Ukraine in the 8th and 7th century BCE. The Scythians founded a rich, powerful empire on what is now Crimea. Okay, right? So again, Who are the Scythians? Who are the Scythians? Right. And this is just an article here giving more information about the Scythians. But notice what it says here. Analysis of 393 Ashkenazic, Iranian mountain Jews, over 600 non-Jewish genomes demonstrated that Greeks, Romans, Iranians, and Turks exhibit the highest genetic similarities with Ashkenazi Jews. The geographic population structure analysis localized most Ashkenazi Jews along the primeval trade routes in eastern Turkey, adjacent to primeval villages with names that may be derived from Ashkenaz. Right. So showing how all these communities tie into Ashkenaz. Iranian and mountain Jews were localized along trade routes on Turkey's eastern border. Loss of maternal haplogroups was evident in non-Yiddish speaking Ashkenazi Jews. Our results, notice what it says, our results suggest that says that Ashkenazi Jews originated from Slavo-Iranian Confederation, which the Jews called Ashkenazic. But notice what it says. An example, the Scythians. That is what's key, family. The Scythians, Ashkenazic. An example, Scythians. Who are these Scythians? Right? Let's go to the Anchor Bible dictionary definition of Ashkenaz. You're going to see more information. It's still going to tie you into the Scythians, but notice what it says. First descendant of Gomer and the first offspring of Japheth, because the Scythians, Ashkenaz, they're the same people. In the Tale of Nations, goes on to say in Jeremiah 51:27, Ashkenaz appears along with Ararat and many as a kingdom called upon to oppose Babylon. And then it started getting into the linguistics as far as the names. As you see here, the name is identified with Neo-Assyrian Ishkuza. And so I'm not going to read all of this. That's what this is getting into. Well, actually, I can read it. Who appeared between the Black and Caspian Seas in 8th and 7th centuries BC, driving out the Sumerians, right? This is not dealing with Assyrians, but this, as you see, or Sumer, but this is the Sumerians, or some would call them the Cimmerians, right? But notice what this says, right? We see the name Gomer there. This is association. This association is reflected in Genesis 10 and threatening the Assyrians. But notice what this says, right? We see Ashkenaz, but it says for Herodotus, these people came to be called Scythians. So we see under Ashkenaz, it says that the people, the Ashkenazis, they were called Scythians, right? They were called Scythians. The correspondence of the consonants. Now, this is getting into the linguists, but I'm not going to read all of that. But it says, although cultural association reached back into the 3rd and 2nd millennia BC, present archaeological evidence for a distinctive Scythian culture begins in the 7th century BC. It goes on to say here, possible portrayals of Scythians. We still see the Scythians all through here. On 9th century reliefs of Ashurnazir Paul, excuse me for butchering it, but the first Neo-Assyrian mention of the Ishkuza. So it's telling you that even other cultures make reference to the Scythians. Now, again, you see here, the Neo-Assyrians, they called them Ishkuzu or Ishkuza, occurs during the time of Sargon in the 8th century BC. Driving back the Cimmerians or Sumerians, the Scythians were able to push south to dominate Asia. So we're dealing with invasions, but it goes on to say Scythian raid against Egypt was stopped by Psammetichus, right? And it says Herodotus made reference to this. For the latter history of the Scythians and the question of their identification with the enemies from the north mentioned in the first part of Jeremiah. And it tells us to see the Scythians. So we looking at this definition of Ashkenaz, and they're telling us to go to see the definition of Scythians to get more information. So I want you to make a note of this key quote, because I'm going to show you where it comes from. Outside of the Hebrew Bible, their reputation for savagery, all right? Who are they referring to? So according to the Anchor Bible Dictionary, the Scythians are the descendants of Ashkenaz. They're the same people, right? The Anchor Bible Dictionary, volume 5, look at what they say about the Scythians. Remember, we were under Ashkenaz, so they pointed us to the Scythians. And look at what it says. Biblical scholars sometimes associate the Scythians with Ashkenaz, and with the bringers of what? Destruction, invasion, right? In the prophecies of Jeremiah and Zephaniah. Outside the Hebrew Bible, their reputation for savagery is alluded to in 2 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 47, to give some other scriptures. And I encourage you guys again, watch that lesson that I did on the son of perdition, and also the Edomite who became king, because I go through both. I really those two presentations, I really go into the details and explain this information. All right, but it goes on to say the Scythians, called Ashkenazi by the Assyrians, apparently first appeared in written history in the annals of Asarhaddon, and seem to be centered at that time in what is today northwest Iran. And it goes on to say, according to Herodotus, the Scythians ruled over all the Near East for 28 years, entering the area from the north. So Near East, that's still getting into what? The Middle East or Northeast Africa. But anyway, traditionally, this period of rule is assigned to the 7th or 6th century BC. The Scythians continue to be mentioned in the texts of Babylonians, Persians, and Greeks as allies and as enemies through the 4th century BC. All right, but it goes on to say here, Scythians' presence in the Near East is restricted to the Crimea. All right, so again, you see here, Ovid records Scythian life in the 1st century AD. So they didn't disappear, family. They hijacked different names, right? But anyway, the Scythians occupied what's called modern day Russia and Ukraine, right? So there's another group of Russians who are connected to the Russians in the Ukraine, right? They are called the Khazars. They are called the Khazars. And so I'm going to tell you, family, and I want you to hear this recording real quick, and then we'll continue on why it's important not to pay attention to a lot of these so-called educators. Starting with this guy right here. Listen to what he says. Y'all probably remember this guy. Let me see if I can find the video. Here it is.
There would be people who would make a disconnection, and I want you to hear me out on this so that I not be misunderstood. There would be people who would say that there is a disconnect between the ancient Jewish populations, that the people who lived in the region before the destruction of the temple, before 70 CE, before the first destruction of the first temple, they would say that those people are not the same people biologically, culturally, ethnically as the people who are making the claim of sovereignty in the land now. If I were making that claim, then what you would raise would be relevant. It would be urgent. It would undermine my claim that it's not complex. But I don't make that claim. I actually believe that that's an anti-Semitic claim. I happen to believe, I have no investment in questioning anyone's Jewishness, anyone's genetic ties to the land, anyone's religious or spiritual ties to the land. I don't buy into the sadly reignited Khazar myth, or which has been disputed by all accounts that I've seen. I've seen no intellectual, empirical, biological DNA, none of that stuff.
That, you heard his words. I don't even have to repeat it, right? And so I can guarantee you, whatever research he called himself doing is by the very community of the name stealers. Because if you look up anyone that says that the Khazarian hypothesis, which is now facts, have not been proven, notice who are at the top of the food chain teaching that. and that is the name stealers and their understudies. It's very easy to go to the DNA. We have an Ashkenazi Jew who is a geneticist who literally proved that it's true. All right. But anyway, family, have to give him the Hollywood Shuffle Award. The Jewish community, as we know them, falls under two main groups, supposedly, right? The Sephardic Jews and the Ashkenazi Jews. And these are political terms, family. You know, I don't even get caught up in the Sephardic Jew term, you know, because that word Jew is a word of confusion, which is a political word. Sephardic and Ashkenazi is the same, falls under that category. But anyway, the Ashkenazis are the Eastern European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and Western Asia. The Jewish community, right? The Jewish Encyclopedia, 1905, revealed the main stock of the Jews came from this people known as the Khazars, right? Family, this is why it's too easy. We can get their own information. Let's go to their own source and see who the Khazars are. And let's see what they say in their encyclopedia, 1905. I'm glad you guys asked the question. Here's the encyclopedia right here, page 1. Right off the back, notice what it says. Khazars, a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginning of the history of the Jews of Russia. The kingdom of the Khazars was firmly established in most of South Russia long before the foundation of the Russian monarchy by the Varangians. Excuse me if I, no, not Varangians, is Varangians. Excuse me. So Varangians, but it goes on to say Jews have lived on the shores of the Black and Caspian Seas since the first century of the Common Era. Historically, it says historical evidence points to the region of Ural as the home of the Khazars. Among the classical writers, the Middle Ages, they were known as Khazars, Khazirs, Akadzirs, Akatirs, and in the Russian chronicles, right? So they are making it clear. And this is what I'm reading from right here, family. Let me zoom it in. This is their own, this is their stuff. This is coming from their own encyclopedia. This is their stuff. You can't make this up, family. So they're all the same people. They are all the same people, family. This is their own writings that I just read. So who is Meshach, right? Because these are some different groups here. And, you know, you see Meshach listed there. As you see, it points to Moscow and Tobolus. These are all descendants of Japheth. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I encourage you guys to go over the couple of lessons that I pointed out. I really don't want to go into all of this. Let me fast forward, but it's still tying into the descendants of Japheth, you know. So, but even here, Meshach was founder of Mashi, a barbarous people who dwelt in the Mashian mountains. He went on to say that the Greek name Mashi, derived from the Hebrew Meshach, is the source of the name for the city of Moscow. So Meshach is actually Moscow. All right, that's what this is saying here. All right, but let me fast forward because, like I said, I don't want to read all of this. Right? Let me fast forward. But yeah, as you see here, Meshach, notice how you see Scythians here. It says here, the Moshi were subdued but it seems probable that a large number of them crossed the Caucasus range and spread over the northern steppes, mingling with who? The Scythians. And the Scythians are who? The Ashkenaz. So we still see the Scythians tying back. So we see Meshach tying in with the Scythians, tying in with the Khazars. They all are what? One big family. All right. Okay. So Herodotus gave some additional key information about the Scythians. Now, I'll highlight this real quick as we get ready to wrap up. This is from Herodotus on the Scythians, right? And this, I mean, it's all through. He give a lot of information, but I want to highlight something here, right? This is paragraph 11. It says, there is also another different story now to be related in which I am more inclined to put faith in any other. It is that the wandering Scythians, and I don't like to just use that term wandering. I like to use that term invaders, right? Once dwelt in Asia and their warred with the Massageti or Massagete, but with ill success. They therefore quitted their homes, crossed from Araxes, and entered the land of Chimeria or Samaria. For the land which is now inhabited by the Scyths or Scyths was formerly the country of the Cimmerians. On their coming, the natives who heard the numerous, the invading armies was held a council. But notice here, it says here, the Scythians was formerly the country of Cimmerians or Cimmerians. Now, who are these people? Who are the Cimmerians? Because we said Scythians, they're synonymous to the Ashkenazis, but you see the Scythians, the commonality in all pretty much the different tribes under Japheth. But who are the Cimmerians? Guess what? I'm glad you guys asked. Gomer or Gomer, right? It says here, Gomer, the name of a son of Japheth and his descendants. So Gomer or Gomer or Gamar or Gomer, right? Notice what it says here. It says here, the eldest son of Japheth and grandson of Noah, the progenitor of the early Cimmerians or Cimmerians and other branches of the Celtic family. So guess what? They're descendants of who? Japheth. Come on, family. Come on, family. You can't make this stuff up. But notice here, let me go back here because I don't want to get into this other portion of here. But let me go back to this article here because there's another thing I want to highlight, this source, right? I want to zoom in if I can read it. Right? It says in paragraph 12, section 12, it says Scythia still retains traces of the Cimmerians or Cimmerians. They are Cimmerian walls and a Cimmerian ferry, also a tract called Samaria, and a Samaria Bosporus. It appears likewise that the Cimmerians, when they fled into Asia to escape the Scyths, made a settlement in the peninsula where the Greeks' city of Sinope was afterwards built. The Scyths, it is plain, pursued them and missing their road, poured into Media. For the Cimmerians or Cimmerians kept the line which led along the sea. So this is telling you here how the Scythians took everything from the Cimmerians, right? Took everything, took everything, jacked them. Okay, family. So just, I just thought I'd point that out. But as we just proved, family, that we just proved that these group of people are reckless. These group of people are savages. These group of people, when you start reading about the Europeans, all of them are descendants of Japheth, and you see the commonality of all of them. All of them, guess what? Their name still is because they hijacked our identity. But we see how they invaded each other's territories and taking on different groups. So guess what? You can lump the Vikings, all of them there. So I'm going to drop a link here real quick. Apostle Curtis, if you want to jump on, you're more than welcome. I'll just drop this link in the comment section. If you want to jump on, if you want to add any comments. But family, as Apostle Curtis pointed out, they jacked us. Man, they stole everything that you can imagine. They hijacked cultures, different communities. As you can see, they play on both sides of the fence, right? They got the modern day Arabs, still Turks, right? The Israel, what we see today over there, Turks. When we look at Egypt, Turk, we see that community is playing both sides of the coin. These name stealers, it's prevalent, very prevalent, very prevalent. So, family, uh, you know, this is the stuff that we need to talk about more, and not be scared to talk about it, because many are scared to talk about it, because of you know uh, they have influence in pretty much everywhere, especially on social media. Now they're making it so that way if you make any reference correlating them to the Khazars, these name stealers to the Khazars or the Khazarian people, that they can consider that as being anti-Semitic, right? So let me go ahead and bring on my buddy Apostle Curtis. Let me bring the elder on. How you doing, Apostle?
Shalom, Pastor Kelly. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, all I can tell you is home run. Home run. I'm telling you, Pastor Kelly, I love your courage. I love your teaching. 100% accurate. I stand with you because you stand with Yah and you stand with the scriptures.
Amen. I appreciate you, Apostle. And I tell you, it's just amazing just how deep that rabbit hole goes.
It's deep. It's deep. And I'm so thankful that you are able to lay it out, and you laying it out. It's just not a hate gospel. This is you loving people by informing people and telling them the truth, and not ashamed and not afraid. And you're doing it in the love of the Most High Yah. And so I just appreciate it. I'm happy. I'm happy that you're out here. I'm happy that your channel is growing the way it is. Brother, we got your back, and because you got Yah's back.
Well, I appreciate it, Apostle. And any other things, anything that stood out in this presentation tonight that kind of maybe it may have caught really draw your attention or caught your attention or something?
Well, I love the way you lay it out and you prove with sources. I mean, true sources. You're not just making up stuff. How that they used our skin for leather and for different things. And this, like I said, you're not here and I'm not here hating on anybody. We just here telling the truth of the history of our people, the different things we've been through. And there's no people on the planet that have encountered the things that we've encountered, contrary to what they want to say. Because you can go to Daniel chapter 9, verse 11 through 16, and it says, no one on the planet has encountered what Israel has encountered, and we are those people. And so all of those facts that you point out is really, really good. And like I said, it's good to have the spirit so that you can process this properly, because we need to know these things, and so I just thank the Father for all the information that you're bringing out.
Oh, I appreciate it, Apostle, and trying to do as much as I can to help open up or remove the scales from our people's eyes. And I tell you, even going over, because I'm now researching Herodotus' works, and I mean, he goes in on the Scythians. He spent a lot of time talking about them. And even when you start discovering that the universities, like in the 14th century, 15th century, they were primarily the Catholic Church,
right?
The Catholic Christian Church. So they are very instrumental in a lot of the strongholds of our understanding of the text.
Right.
And when you tie them in with the Jewish community, of course, because they worked hand in hand. So this is why it's such a stronghold. And it's amazing from the Greek perspective. Stronghold is actually conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So when we deal with doctors of men, all doctors of men is conversations.
Exactly.
Right. So now what they did with these conversations, they created doctrines, and they hid it up under this term that they toss around, theology, which theology is nothing more than a glorified term called of the label philosophies. And they created universities off of these things. And they have people brainwashed, kind of like the Babylonians, say, hey, I'm going to go get my degree from this university that are pushing a certain theology, and not really realizing that you are being brainwashed into pushing a certain narrative.
Right, yeah. And you and I talk all the time, and I always tell you, and I say what I mean and mean what I say. There's a lot of stuff out here that I just dismiss and I don't listen to. But I promise you, the stuff you bring out, you got your ducks in the row, you got your facts, and you're laying it out with a spirit of being concerned about our people as well as all people. So I appreciate the fact, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not ashamed to tell anybody, I've learned a lot from your different research. And like I said, I don't trust everybody, and that's not to put out on anybody. I'm just telling you, I appreciate how you lay it out, and just keep doing what you're doing, Pastor Kelly.
I appreciate it, Apostle. Before we wrap up, I just want to say something now, because I want to allow you to give encouraging comments to the people as we close out. But I want to make this clear, family. And I know when many really don't understand who the Palestinians is, when we start understanding the Palestinians, and like I said, I'm not taking one side or the other, but the Palestinians you see today are not the ancient people of the book. When you see Philistines, the Palestinians are not the Philistines. And when you study the Romans, it was the Romans that created that word Palestine and really appropriated that term to a modern people. So when you look at the Palestinians, they are not the original people, even though they've been there longer than the Jewish community, or should I say the name stealers, I use that term, that they've been there a little longer than them. But overall, guess what, family? They are not the indigenous people. They're not original to that territory. And if you go back over one of the videos I uploaded, family, I have a video of 1924. We're giving you a video of how Israel looked in 1924. You will not see what you see today. You will not see the shifting that began just a little bit prior to 1948. So I want to make sure that when you understand the Palestinians, they are not the same people as the Philistines. The modern day Arabs, they are not the ancient Arabs, right? There's a difference. And this is where you have to understand the Ottoman invasion, the Arabic invasion, and then you'll understand who these people are, and the relationship. And you still see they all tie back to, as we pointed out, the Khazarians, and the descendants of Japheth. All right. But with that being said, family, really appreciate you guys for, being in tune tonight. Of course, this is not a 3 hour, cannot do a 3 hour tonight. Don't have it in me, but really appreciate you guys for the love and support. And Apostle, I'm going to have you give the final words to the people. Anything that you want to share with them, tell them about your ministry, your channel, and how to get in contact with you if they're interested in connecting with your ministry.
Yes, sir. Appreciate that, Pastor Kelly. And I want to say good points you just made, and facts. You presented nothing but facts, and also we appreciate all the truth that you put out there. I want to say to all the brothers and sisters in the chat that we love you, we appreciate you. Thank y'all for supporting this channel. I do have my spiritual daughter on there. She can put my YouTube channel in for me. I don't always have it accessed with me. But anyway, thank you, Pastor Kelly, for all the work you're doing. And thanks to everyone in the chat. And let me encourage you that let's look up, because our redemption is drawing nigh. Peace.
Hallelujah. And with that being said, family, as I always close out, can't go back, or actually I'll just recite like I always recite Exodus 14, verse 13 and 14. It says, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, They will not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the requirements. This is what he expects from us. We have to hold our peace. In other words, in that text, the Hebrew word there is charash, which means be quiet. Can't go back, can't stay here, keep moving forward.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.